Jason had stopped believing the stars held anything for him. He used to love them as a boy, lying on the roof of his parents' house, pointing out constellations and pretending the universe had a plan. But years passed and life took everything that mattered. His father gone to illness, his mother fading into silence, and friends who once promised forever now long forgotten. At 33, Jason sat alone most nights on the old wooden porch of a house too quiet for comfort. His only company was the creak of the boards under his chair, the whisper of the wind, and the dull hum of crickets out in the grass. He would drink cheap coffee gone cold, smoke half a cigarette, and watch the sky as if waiting for something, though he never expected anything to come. That night, the sky changed. At first it was subtle, just a streak of light he thought was a shooting star. He almost smiled, almost made a wish like he did as a child. But the streak didn't vanish. It grew wider, brighter, tearing across the heavens like a burning wound. The crickets went silent. The ground trembled faintly under his feet. Jason stood, heart thundering. This wasn't a star. This wasn't a plane. It was something far bigger, far stranger. The light roared across the night, and in that instant he saw the shape. A ship. Massive burning metal glowing like molten rock. It screamed through the clouds, breaking branches as it cut across the horizon. Fire trailed behind it, and a sound like thunder and tearing steel filled the world. It crashed beyond the tree line in the forest, only a few miles away. The impact shook the earth so violently that Jason stumbled, clutching the porch rail to stay on his feet. The sky itself seemed to shiver with the force. Then silence, only smoke rising in the distance. Jason could have stayed. He could have hidden inside, locked his door, pretended nothing had happened. Maybe that would have been the smart thing to do. But in the hollow of his chest something stirred, a fire he hadn't felt in years. He ran, down the porch steps, across the field, past the old fence. His boots tore through dirt and grass as if they had waited their whole lives for this moment. His lungs burned, his legs screamed, but he didn't stop. For once he wasn't running away. He was running toward. The forest greeted him with shadows and smoke. The air was heavy with burning metal, sharp and bitter on his tongue. Trees had been splintered like matchsticks, branches twisted and broken. He followed the trail of fire deeper and deeper until the world seemed unreal, like he had stepped into a dream he wasn't supposed to see. And then he found it. The ship, or what was left of it. It was unlike anything he could imagine. Huge plates of black and silver metal lay torn open, sparking with dying energy. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its hull. Alien letters he couldn't begin to understand. The ground was scarred, smoking as though the earth itself had been wounded. Jason's breath caught in his throat. His mind screamed to turn back, to leave before whatever had fallen from the sky showed itself. But his feet carried him closer. He needed to see. He needed to know. The wreck groaned, steel bending under invisible weight. Sparks rained from broken circuits. And then he heard it. A sound, not mechanical, not the hiss of metal. A voice, weak, pained, barely above a whisper. Help me. Jason froze. His heart raced, his skin turned cold. He wasn't alone. Someone was in there. Slowly, he stepped forward, his eyes scanning the wreckage. And then he saw her. Amid the fire and ruin, she lay against the twisted hull. A figure tall and impossible, skin shimmering with a silver glow that caught the firelight like moonlit water. Her hair was long, flowing, scattered across the ground like strands of starlight. Her eyes opened just slightly, and they were unlike anything human, deep gold, burning faintly even as pain clouded them. She was alive. She was real. She was alien, and she was looking at him. For a long moment, the world held still. Jason's breath shook as their eyes locked, human and alien staring across the impossible. He had never seen such beauty, never felt such terror. She raised a trembling hand toward him, her lips parting with effort. You, human, help me. Jason should have run. Every part of him screamed to turn, to flee into the safety of ignorance. But instead he stepped forward, pushing aside twisted beams of burning metal with his bare hands. He burned his skin. He tore his palms open, but he didn't stop until he reached her. He bent down, lifting her carefully from the wreckage, feeling the strange warmth of her body against his chest. She was heavy, yet fragile, her breathing faint and uneven. And as the forest burned around them, Jason realized something he could never take back. His life had just changed, forever. Jason carried her out of the fire as if she weighed nothing. Though his arms shook and his lungs screamed for air, the wreckage behind them burned bright, the smoke rising high enough to swallow the stars. He laid her gently on the soft earth beneath an old pine tree, the flames crackling in the distance. For the first time he could see her clearly. She was tall, taller than him by a few inches, her body long and graceful. Her skin wasn't like skin at all. It shimmered, almost translucent, glowing faintly with silver light that pulsed as if it were alive. Her golden eyes blinked slowly, trying to focus, and Jason felt like he was staring into the heart of a sun. Her lips moved, trembling with weakness. "You saved me." Jason swallowed hard. His throat was dry, and his hands still bled from tearing through sharp metal to reach her. I don't even know what's happening," he said softly. "I don't know what you are." She coughed, a faint sound like glass cracking. He noticed dark liquid, not quite blood, glowing faintly blue against her skin. She was hurt, badly. And somehow, despite every voice in his head screaming that this was insane, Jason knew he couldn't leave her. He ripped off his jacket and pressed it gently against the wound in her side. "Hold on," he whispered. "Just hold on." Her golden eyes studied him. There was confusion there, but also something else, curiosity. Perhaps even disbelief. "You are human," she murmured, as if the word itself was strange in her mouth. Jason gave a short, breathless laugh. "Yeah, and you're definitely not." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the fire behind them filled the silence, and the whisper of the wind moving through the trees. Jason kept his hands steady, though inside he shook like a child facing the dark. Finally, she spoke again. "I am McQueen," she said, voice breaking with pain. "Ruler of worlds. Blood of the first star, my name. Cannot be spoken in your tongue. But I am she who reigns." Jason blinked, stunned. Queen? Ruler of worlds? It sounded impossible, like a line from a storybook or a fever dream. And yet here she was, bleeding, fragile, and utterly real in his arms. "You're a queen," he repeated quietly. His voice was almost a whisper, as if saying it too loud would break the spell of the night. Her head dipped faintly, a nod so weak it almost wasn't there. Then her eyes closed for a moment, her breath shallow. Panic shot through Jason's chest. No, stay with me," he begged, shaking her gently. "Don't you dare pass out on me." "You've come this far. You don't get to quit now." Her eyes opened again, slowly, and she looked at him with something he couldn't quite name. It wasn't just gratitude. It wasn't just need. It was recognition. "You came," she whispered, "when others would run." Jason felt his throat tighten. He didn't know what to say, so he just shrugged helplessly. "I don't know why. Maybe because I've got nothing else left. Maybe because if I didn't, no one else would." Her gaze lingered on him as if measuring the truth of his words. Then, almost too softly to hear, she said, "Perhaps that is why." Jason frowned. "Why what?" But she didn't answer. Instead, she coughed again, her body trembling with weakness. He knew he couldn't just sit here and watch her fade. He looked around desperately. The wreckage still burned, throwing up smoke that could be seen for miles. Something was going to come looking. Whoever she was running from, they'd know where to find her. And if they found her like this, she wouldn't stand a chance. Jason clenched his jaw. He didn't understand the galaxy or empires or thrones. He was just a man from a forgotten corner of Earth. But he did understand one thing. She needed him. And for the first time in years, someone needed him. He carefully pulled her closer again, adjusting the jacket pressed to her wound. "All right," he whispered, more to himself than her. "You're not dying tonight. Not on my watch." Her golden eyes flickered like a star burning in the dark. She whispered one more word, soft and heavy with meaning. "King." Jason froze. The word hit him like a blow. "What did you just call me?" he asked. But she had already slipped into unconsciousness, her breathing slow but steady. Jason sat there in the smoke and fire, holding an alien queen in his arms, wondering what the hell fate had just thrown at him. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and confusion, a tiny ember of something new began to glow. Hope. The night was no longer quiet. Jason sat against the roots of the old pine, the alien queen resting weakly in his arms. The fire of the wreck still burned behind them, smoke curling into the sky like a signal flare. Every instinct in his body told him it was only a matter of time before someone, or something, came looking. He tried to slow his breathing, tried to think. His hands were raw, cut open from the wreckage, and his body ached from running. Yet none of that mattered. What mattered was the woman, no, the queen, lying against him, her silver skin glowing faintly even in unconsciousness. Jason glanced at her face. Even in pain, even in weakness, she carried a kind of strength he couldn't describe. She didn't look like someone who should need saving. And yet here she was, depending on him. The thought filled him with both fear and a strange, burning determination. That was when he heard it. A low hum. At first, Jason thought it was the fire. But the sound grew louder, sharper, vibrating through the ground beneath him. He froze, holding his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. Then he saw them, lights in the sky, not stars, not planes. Dark shapes cutting across the smoke, their forms sleek and sharp like blades slicing the night. Small ships, black and silent, descending without mercy. They moved with purpose, like predators who already knew where their prey was hiding. Jason's stomach dropped. They were coming for her. Branches cracked nearby. Figures stepped from the shadows, tall and armored in black plates that gleamed faintly under the moonlight. Their helmets were faceless, glowing with narrow red slits for eyes. They carried weapons Jason had never seen before, long and sharp, glowing faintly with blue energy. The queen stirred in his arms, her eyes flickering open. When she saw them, her face twisted with pain, not just physical, but something deeper. Betrayal. She whispered, her voice raw. My guard. They swore loyalty. Now, they hunt me. Jason's chest tightened. He didn't understand alien politics or empires, but betrayal, that he understood. He clenched his fists, his cuts stinging as he looked at the approaching soldiers. How many? He whispered. Her golden eyes moved weakly toward the shadows. Dozens. More will come. They think me dead. If they find me. If they know. She coughed, the glow of her skin dimming. It is over. Jason's mouth went dry. Dozens. He had no weapon, no plan, no hope of fighting trained killers from another world. He was just one man. But as he looked down at her fragile form, something inside him refused to run. Not this time. He scanned the forest quickly, searching for anything. Rocks, broken branches, fire. His hands closed around a heavy stick, its end blackened by flame. It wasn't much, but it was something. He gently slid the queen into the hollow beneath the pine's roots, covering her with his torn jacket. She looked at him with desperate eyes as if she knew what he was about to do. You cannot fight them, she whispered. You will die. Jason forced a shaky smile. Maybe, but if I run, you die. And I'm not letting that happen. She tried to speak again, but her voice failed. Jason pressed a finger gently to her lips. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. I'll find a way. Then he stood, gripping the burning stick in his bleeding hands. His heart pounded so hard it hurt. His legs trembled. Fear screamed at him to turn, to hide, to surrender. But he stepped out into the clearing anyway. The soldiers saw him instantly. Their helmets turned, red eyes glowing. One raised a weapon, the tip sparking with blue light. Jason's throat went dry. He was nothing to them. Just a human. Just an insect in their way, but he refused to move aside. Over here, he shouted, his voice shaking but loud. He raised the burning stick like a sword, firelight dancing in his eyes. The soldiers paused, almost confused. Perhaps they hadn't expected resistance. Perhaps they hadn't expected anyone at all. Then one of them barked something in a guttural alien tongue, and they advanced. Jason gritted his teeth, forcing down the terror clawing at his chest. He charged. The first soldier swung a blade, and Jason ducked, jamming the burning stick into its armor. The alien roared, stumbling back as fire licked at its suit. Jason snatched a sharp rock from the ground and slammed it against the soldier's helmet with every ounce of strength he had. The crack echoed in the night. The alien fell. Jason gasped, trembling, blood dripping from his hand. He looked up. The others hesitated, their red eyes glowing brighter. They hadn't expected this. They hadn't expected him. He stood over the fallen soldier, panting, gripping the bloodied rock. Come on, then, he growled through gritted teeth. You want her? You'll have to go through me. For a long moment, the forest held its breath. Then the soldiers advanced again. And Jason braced himself to fight, one man against an army. Because for the first time in his life, someone needed him, and he wasn't going to let her down. Jason's arms shook. His chest burned and blood ran down his fingers. The soldiers circled him like wolves, their glowing eyes cutting through the smoke. He had never felt so small, so powerless. And yet his feet would not move backward. He thought about the queen hidden under the tree roots, her golden eyes heavy with trust. She believed he would protect her even when he didn't believe in himself. That thought lit a fire inside him, stronger than fear. The first soldier lunged. Jason twisted away, swinging his burning stick with desperate force. Sparks flew as the wood clashed against alien armor. Pain shot through his wrist, but he didn't stop. He drove the fire into the soldier's faceplate. The alien roared, stumbling back, clawing at the flames. Another soldier struck him from behind. Jason fell to his knees, the wind knocked from his lungs. A blade grazed his shoulder, slicing cloth and skin. He cried out, clutching the wound, but rage pushed him back to his feet. "No," he shouted, his voice raw. "Not tonight." He grabbed a jagged piece of metal from the wreck and swung wildly. It slammed against the soldier's arm, sparks flying. The alien staggered, surprised by the ferocity of a single human. Jason pressed the attack, slamming the metal again and again until the soldier fell. His chest heaved. His body screamed in pain. But he was still standing. The soldiers hesitated now. Their red eyes flickered between each other, uncertain. They had expected a weak creature, something fragile and easy to crush. Instead, they found a man who refused to break. Jason's vision blurred. Blood dripped into his eyes, but he tightened his grip on the jagged metal. "Come on," he roared. "Is that all you've got?" The aliens advanced together this time, blades glowing with blue energy. Jason barely dodged the first strike, the weapon slicing a tree in half behind him. He swung his metal shard, cutting shallowly into another's armor. Pain exploded across his ribs as a blow sent him crashing to the ground. The world spun. His body begged him to stay down. But then, he saw her, the queen. From her hiding place, her golden eyes glowed faintly, watching him. Her lips moved, whispering something he could not hear. But he understood. She was still counting on him. Jason's hands clawed at the dirt. He forced himself up, staggering, his legs barely holding him. The nearest soldier raised a blade, ready to finish him. Without thinking, Jason lunged forward, grabbing the glowing weapon with both hands. The heat burned his palms instantly. The pain was blinding, but he held on. With a cry torn from the depths of his chest, he twisted the blade sideways and shoved it straight into the alien's chest. The soldier convulsed, blue light sparking across its armor, then collapsed in a heap. Jason fell to his knees, panting, the weapon still clutched in his bleeding hands. His vision darkened at the edges. He wanted to let go, to collapse, to sleep. But the sound of the soldiers retreating pulled him back. They stepped away slowly, their red eyes glowing brighter. They hadn't expected this. They weren't prepared for a human who fought like a cornered animal. One of them hissed something in that alien tongue, and then, like shadows, they melted back into the forest. Silence fell. Jason dropped the weapon and pressed his trembling hands to the dirt. His whole body ached. Every breath burned. He had no idea how he was still alive. "Jason." The voice was weak, soft. He looked up. The queen had crawled from her hiding place, her body trembling. She sank to her knees beside him, her silver hand brushing against his bloody face. Her golden eyes shone with something he couldn't describe. Awe. Pain. Gratitude. No human would do this, she whispered. "Why, you?" Jason swallowed, his voice hoarse. "Because no one else would. And I'm tired. Tired of being nothing." Her lips parted, and for a moment she said nothing. Then she leaned closer, her forehead resting gently against his. "You are not nothing," she whispered. "Not to me." Jason's chest tightened. He wanted to speak, to answer, but his strength gave out. Darkness pressed at the edges of his vision. He collapsed forward, and the last thing he felt was her arms catching him. For the first time in his life, Jason had chosen to stand, chosen to fight. And in that choice, something inside him had changed forever. He was no longer a nobody. Jason woke to the sound of crackling fire and the soft rustle of wind through trees. His whole body ached. Every muscle felt bruised, every cut throbbed with pain. For a moment, he didn't remember where he was. Then he saw her. The queen sat beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dark. She was weak but alive. Her golden eyes studied him carefully as though she were trying to solve a mystery. "You live," she whispered softly, almost in disbelief. Jason let out a rough laugh that turned into a cough. "Feels like barely." He tried to sit up, groaning as pain shot through his ribs. She reached out, steadying him with a graceful hand. Her touch was warm, strangely comforting. For a long while, neither of them spoke. The forest around them was quiet now, though the smell of smoke still hung heavy in the air. Jason stared at her, still struggling to believe what he was seeing. "You said, you're a queen," he finally managed. Her eyes did not leave his. "Yes, not just queen of one world. Of many, hundreds. I rule an empire across the stars. At least, I did." Her voice faltered. "Now they believe me dead. My throne stolen by those who betrayed me." Jason frowned. He had never cared about kings, queens, or empires. Those belonged to fairy tales and history books. Yet here, sitting in the dirt with blood on his hands, he was face to face with the truth. "And if they think you're dead," he asked, "then the empire falls to them," she said bitterly. "My people will bow to traitors. Worlds will burn in silence. My legacy, my bloodline, ended." Her voice shook for the first time, and Jason realized something. She wasn't just a queen. She was afraid. Jason sat quietly, absorbing her words. He didn't understand politics among the stars, but he did understand loss. He saw it in her eyes. She was losing everything, just like he had lost everything on Earth. "You can fight back," he said suddenly. "You can return. Take back your throne." Her golden eyes softened, almost sad. "Not alone. My strength is gone. High power means nothing without someone to stand with me." Jason gave a dry laugh. "What, you need an army? I'm just one guy, a nobody. I fix fences, drink bad coffee, and sit on my porch waiting for days to pass. That's all I've ever been." She shook her head, her silver hair catching the faint firelight. "No, Jason. Last night you stood against soldiers trained from birth. You bled yet did not yield. You chose to fight when all logic said to run. That is not nothing. That is everything." Her words cut deep. Jason lowered his gaze, unsure how to respond. His whole life he had been invisible, a man the world forgot. Yet here was a queen, an alien queen, telling him he mattered. Silence stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. Then she spoke again, her voice quiet but full of weight. "In my empire, strength is not just power. It is choice. And you, Jason of Earth, have shown a strength no one else has. That is why." She paused as if gathering courage. "That is why I will not return alone. If I rise, I will rise with you." Jason blinked, confused. "With me? What do you mean?" Her golden eyes burned into his. "My people must see me not just alive, but chosen by fate. If I stand alone, I am weak. But if I stand with you, the one who bled for me, the one who defied death itself, then they will see destiny. They will follow. They will believe." Jason's mouth went dry. "Wait, you're saying—" She nodded slowly. "Yes, by my right, by my law, by the bond of blood you spilled. I can name you my equal, my chosen, my king." The words hit Jason like thunder. His breath caught, his chest tight. King, him? It was absurd. He was nothing. No crown, no throne, no destiny. Just a man who had lost everything. He shook his head, stammering. I can't, I'm not—" "You are," she interrupted firmly, her voice sharp now, carrying the weight of command. "You proved it when you stood against them. You proved it when you refused to run. You may see yourself as nothing, but I see truth. You are more human than your world allows, and humanity is what I need." Jason stared at her, his heart pounding. The firelight danced between them, shadows flickering across her face. She wasn't asking. She was declaring. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to laugh it off, but deep inside something stirred. For the first time in his life, someone saw him as more. Someone believed he could be more. The queen leaned closer, her voice soft but unshakable. "Say yes, Jason, stand with me. Be more than forgotten. Be king." Jason closed his eyes, his chest heaving. He thought of his empty house, his quiet nights, the endless loneliness. He thought of her golden eyes looking at him with trust, and when he opened his eyes again, he whispered the word that would change everything. Yes. The forest was quiet again, though silence did not mean safety. Smoke still curled into the air, and the ground bore the scars of battle. Jason sat slumped against a fallen log, his body trembling from exhaustion. Every muscle burned, his wounds throbbed, but he was alive, and so was she. The queen sat across from him, her silver skin faintly glowing in the moonlight. She looked stronger now, though her breaths were still shallow. For a long time she studied him in silence, her golden eyes unreadable. Jason broke the quiet first. "So I said yes. But I don't really understand what I agreed to. Her lips curved into something between a smile and sorrow. You agreed to stand with me. That is more than I could ask. Jason shook his head. No, I mean, you called me your king. That doesn't make sense. I'm just a guy. I'm not brave. I'm not powerful. I'm not— You are everything, she interrupted firmly, her voice sharper than before. Jason, do you not see? Last night you fought with nothing. No weapon, no armor, no training. Yet you stood against those bred for war. You bled, you fell, and still you rose again. That is courage. That is strength. That is why I chose you. Her words hit him harder than any blade. Jason lowered his gaze, his throat tight. He had spent his whole life believing he was nothing. Forgotten. Ordinary. But she spoke as if he mattered more than any star in the sky. He tried to laugh it off. You're making me sound like some kind of hero. Her golden eyes softened. To me, you are. Jason's chest ached at those words. He looked away, blinking quickly, afraid she might see the emotion in his eyes. The queen shifted closer, her movements graceful despite her injuries. She lowered herself until she knelt in front of him. Jason's breath caught. She was tall, radiant, her presence overwhelming, yet in that moment she seemed fragile, almost human. She reached out, taking his scarred hand in hers. Her touch was warm, almost electric, as if the very air around them shifted. Jason of Earth, she said, her voice steady and solemn. By my right as queen, by the law of my people, and by the bond written in the blood you spilled tonight, I name you my chosen. I name you my equal. From this moment forward, you are not only a man, you are my king. Jason's heart pounded so hard it hurt. The words echoed in his head, impossible and undeniable. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. He stared at her, his mind racing. He wanted to say no. He wanted to insist he wasn't worthy, that he was just ordinary. But deep inside, a voice whispered the truth. For the first time in his life, he was seen. Not as broken, not as forgotten, but as something more. The queen's golden eyes never wavered. This choice is not mine alone, she said softly. It is yours as well. You must accept or the bond cannot hold. Do you accept, Jason? Jason closed his eyes. He saw flashes of his life, the empty porch, the quiet nights, the loneliness that had weighed him down for years. He thought of how invisible he had felt, how meaningless his existence had seemed. Then he thought of her. Her eyes burning with trust, her voice calling him hero, her hand holding his as if he were worth the world. When he opened his eyes again, he whispered, his voice shaking but certain, yes. A glow passed through her hand into his, warm and bright, like fire flowing through his veins. Jason gasped, staring as faint light traced across his skin before fading into nothing. It is done, she said softly. Her voice trembled now, but not from weakness, from relief. Jason swallowed, his throat dry. So, what does that make me now? Some kind of alien prince? She gave a small, genuine smile. No, Jason, you are not prince. You are king. The words sank into him, heavy and unbelievable. He still felt like a broken man, scarred and ordinary. But when she said it, he almost believed it. The queen leaned closer, her forehead resting gently against his. Her golden eyes closed, and for the first time Jason felt something deeper than destiny. A bond. A promise. The forest around them was quiet, the stars watching silently. Jason sat there, his body broken but his spirit burning. One night had changed everything, and now he was no longer just a man. He was her king. The forest was no longer burning. The wreck had gone quiet, its fires reduced to smoke and ash. Jason stood with the queen at his side, his body weak but his spirit strangely strong. He had bled, fought, and made a choice that could never be undone. The night was breaking. Dawn painted the sky with faint shades of orange and gold. For Jason, it felt like more than just morning. It felt like a new life beginning. The air trembled. He looked up. Ships. Not small hunting craft this time, but enormous vessels cutting through the sky like mountains made of metal. Their dark hulls glowed faintly with alien markings, their engines shaking the trees as they descended. Jason's heart skipped a beat. The queen stepped forward, her posture tall, her face calm despite the storm above. My people, she whispered. Jason clenched his fists. Are they friend or foe? She glanced at him, her golden eyes soft. They are mine. Loyalists who followed the beacon when my ship fell. They come to serve their queen. Jason swallowed, his chest tightening. Soon he would not just be standing before her. He would be standing before an empire. The ships landed with thunder. The ground shook as ramps lowered, and lines of soldiers emerged. They were taller than Jason, armored in silver and white, their weapons shining with energy. They moved in perfect order, their boots striking the earth as one. At their head was a commander, his armor etched with gold. When his gaze fell on the queen, he dropped to one knee, his soldiers following instantly. Their voices rang out in unison, strange and powerful. "Your Majesty." Jason stood frozen. Hundreds of soldiers knelt before her, the air thick with reverence. And then it happened. They looked at him,